Berlin is mourning its dead. Ploughed down as they celebrated yards from the memorial church. Outside, a wall of remembrance in another European capital. The German Chancellor paid tribute here early on Tuesday afternoon. Angela Merkel talked of results.
According to the present results of our investigation, we have to presume a terrorist attack. Even if it's very difficult, we will find the strength to live the life that we want in Germany, in a free, united and open society.
That was after special forces raided a refugee shelter at the old Tempelhof airport, the temporary home of a 23-year-old Pakistani asylum seeker arrested on Monday night. The emerging narrative seemed clear-cut until...
So far, we don't know for certain whether there are one or several perpetrators. We don't know for certain whether he or she had supporters. This investigation is not yet complete. We must get used to the idea that the arrested, a Pakistani national who was arrested Monday night, that he was possibly not the perpetrator or that he did not belong to the group of perpetrators.
That was soon confirmed with his release on grounds of insufficient evidence. The actual perpetrator is reportedly believed to have shot the original Polish driver in the head, leaving nervous Berliners with many questions about an investigation that's been turned upside down. Whoever was responsible appears to be on the loose, armed, and very possibly may turn out to have received help because Islamic State say they were behind this attack. Authorities are warning of a significant risk of another incident.
Yesterday's attack in Berlin also energizing critics of European immigration policies, specifically that recent influx of refugees from nations like Syria. And despite the concerns even back in 2015 that ISIS could infiltrate the population, this is what we're hearing from German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
Wir haben so vieles geschafft, wir schaffen das. Können das schaffen und wir schaffen das. Wir schaffen das, da bin ich ganz fest davon überzeugt. Und für mich selbstverständlich ist, dass man an eine neue Aufgabe so rangeht, dass man erstmal sagt, wir schaffen das. Wir haben so vieles geschafft, wir schaffen das. Wir schaffen das, denn Deutschland ist ein starkes Land. Wir schaffen das und wir haben im Übrigen in den letzten 11 Monaten sehr, sehr viel bereits geschafft.
The French Parliament held a moment of silence. Lawmakers there especially sympathetic, since facing their own truck-driven terror attack in Nice in July. President François Hollande extended solidarity and compassion to his immediate neighbour.
France knows what a terrorist attack brings, what it can provoke, despair, and at the same time hardship, and how we must be united. It is true for a country when it's been struck. It's true for the whole of Europe, and even for the whole world, in the face of a terrorist threat.
China's President Xi Jinping expressed his heartfelt sympathy in a statement, saying China was ready to strengthen anti-terrorism cooperation with the international community, including Germany. US President Barack Obama, who's been taking a break in Hawaii, called his German counterpart on the phone to offer assistance and appreciation for Chancellor Angela Merkel's leadership in what he called our shared effort to root out the scourge of terrorism and defend our way of life.
The risk is very real, and that's why it's so important for us to collaborate as we do with our German friends, with our Turkish friends, and of course with the Russians as well.
The attacks on Monday have prompted countries throughout Europe to beef up their security. France's government has heightened security at Christmas markets around the country. Interior Minister Bruno Le Roux ordered security forces to be extra vigilant and added that 3,000 more personnel will be deployed during the upcoming holidays. Neighbouring Italy is also strengthening security measures for areas where crowds are expected to gather for Christmas ceremonies, and this includes markets, concert halls, as well as institutional buildings and embassies. And over in London, police say they are reviewing their plans for protecting the public at events during the course of the festive period.
Back here at home, meanwhile, Americans on edge as well. Security stepped up tonight at Christmas markets and malls, at holiday events.
Heavily armed units patrolled Christmas markets today in New York and Chicago. In Atlanta, police say that they are monitoring the situation, while Seattle police announced a heightened level of awareness. Yesterday's attack comes 5 months after a man drove a truck into a crowd in Nice, France, killing more than 80. Just last month, a student at Ohio State University drove a car over a curb and then stabbed bystanders with a knife. On CBS This Morning, Deputy Commissioner John Miller said the NYPD is working with the trucking industry to prevent vehicle attacks.
One of the second things we did after the Nice attack was to go back out to 140 truck rental locations and say, here's some indicators of suspicious behavior. According to a congressional report, 80% of the terrorism cases being investigated by the FBI are related to ISIS. The group's propaganda asks sympathizers to use vehicles to target outdoor markets, festivals, or parades. In response, cities like Cleveland have installed concrete barricades and fencing during special events. But Ron Hosko, a former assistant director of the FBI, says even that may not be enough.
This low-intensity style attack that could be committed by a baseball bat, by a knife, by a handgun, by a vehicle, that the opportunity to commit that style of attack is everywhere.
Police officials say that there is no specific or credible threat. But Scott, one of the things that continues to frustrate police is how quickly someone can go from inspired to action.
On Tuesday, the European Union agreed on imposing stricter gun laws, however, balked at the proposal for a complete ban on some of the most lethal semi-automatic weapons, such as the Kalashnikov. Proposed in 2015 but disputed by the bloc's 28-member nations, the measure comes in response to the overwhelming rise in militant attacks which claimed the lives of 130 people in Paris in November of last year. The new rules restrict access to some high-caliber weapons and make it easier to track guns to reduce black market sales. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said in a statement, "We have fought hard for an ambitious deal that reduces the risk of shootings in schools, summer camps, or terrorist attacks with legally held firearms."
There's been a surge in gun sales being reported in the state of California. This ahead of sweeping gun control laws set to take effect in that state in the new year 2017.
Bill, the clock is ticking for California gun owners and those who may want to own one. In just over a week, Californians will be banned from buying so-called assault-style rifles with easily detachable magazines. But because California has a mandatory 10-day waiting period, buyers have just 1 day left to buy America's most popular rifle, the AR-15, and they must pick it up by December 31st, or else they will not be allowed to take possession.
I'm here because I believe in a system of love and karma, but to counterbalance that, if it fails, I'm buying an AK-47 today.
Do I need the weapon I just purchased? No. Did I purchase it anyway? Yes. That's the bottom line, is they took the choice away from responsible adults or irresponsible adults one way or another. They took the choice away completely.
So gun sales here, including handguns, are up 40% this year to over 1 million, and semi-automatic rifle sales have doubled.
Wow, that's amazing numbers. What else is fueling this surge in California?
Well, Governor Brown signed a package of gun control bills this year that also require owners to register their semi-automatic rifles with the state. Buyers of ammunition will need a permit and undergo a background check in 2018, and there is now a ban on any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. Lawmaker Mark Levine called the restrictions necessary because, and I'm quoting, "Anxiety and strife are being sowed throughout American society. The legislature acted to limit bloodshed in our communities." Critics say none of the bills, however, address criminal behavior.
The attacks overseas provide an early test for President-elect Donald Trump. Mr. Trump attributed the Turkish and German attacks to Islamic terrorists. He tweeted, "It is only getting worse. The civilized world must change thinking."
From his southern Florida retreat at Mar-a-Lago, the president-elect described the fight against terrorism in starkly religious terms. ISIS and other Islamist terrorists continually slaughter Christians in their communities, he said in a statement. Mr. Trump also set an audacious goal for his administration. These terrorists must be eradicated from the face of the earth. During the campaign, candidate Trump said German Chancellor Angela Merkel's acceptance of Syrian refugees undermined safety.
Take a look at Germany. Take a look at certain parts of Sweden. Take a look at areas. You don't want to go there.
Since 2015, Germany has reportedly allowed at least 500,000 Syrian refugees to immigrate.
I am going to keep radical Islamic terrorism the hell out of our country.
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker wants more control over U.S. refugee policy, according to a letter he sent to President-elect Donald Trump. In the letter, Walker makes several requests for his home state. One of them is for Wisconsin to get more say in how many refugees it takes in and where they're from. Walker was one of several governors who wanted to ban Syrian refugees from resettling in their states entirely. He said Wisconsin would not participate in resettling them. Walker said he wants states to get more information about how the U.S. resettles refugees. The governor said the current plan seems to encourage complete community integration of a refugee. According to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, that's the idea. Integration is one of the key factors to refugee self-sufficiency. Walker says he has spoken with Vice President-elect Mike Pence regarding the issues and is optimistic they will be addressed quickly by the incoming administration.
Well, Turkey has told the United States that the Fethullah Gulen terror organization was behind the assassination of the Russian ambassador to Turkey. Turkey's foreign minister spoke to his American counterpart, John Kerry. The body of Russian Ambassador Andrei Karlov has been flown back to Moscow. He was killed by a gunman in Ankara on Monday evening. The Kremlin has sent a team of experts to Turkey to help with the investigation. Both sides have called the attack an act of terrorism designed to disrupt relations between the two countries.
After the assassination of Russian Ambassador Andrei Karlov in Turkey on Monday, the presidents of both countries vowed not to let the incident impede the process of normalizing relations between the two countries, and it appears they've kept their word. Talks between Iran, Russia, and Turkey regarding a path toward a Syrian peace deal went forward as planned Tuesday.
Russia, Iran, and Turkey. Three nations negotiating in Moscow for a broader ceasefire in Syria. Absent from these discussions, the United States.
The Secretary doesn't see this as a snub at all. He sees it as another multilateral effort to try to get a lasting peace in Syria. We're not going to turn up our nose to any effort to try to get to a better outcome in Syria. And if that effort by design or by accident isn't going to include us, but it can lead to a better result, then obviously, we would support that.
In downplaying the U.S. exclusion from these talks, the State Department says the Turkish and Russian governments are updating Secretary of State John Kerry on the negotiations. However, foreign policy analysts say this is another demonstration Russia is in control in Syria.
The United States is in an uncharacteristic position right now because for the last 40 years, we've been at the center of all the Middle East peace negotiations as the strongest outside power, but for a variety of reasons, the United States no longer has that position.
Is this a security guard of the future? Israeli developers say their fully autonomous drone system can provide round-the-clock protection at sensitive locations. By using sensors and real-time computer vision technology, it's claimed it can react to potential security threats. Company's promotional video depicts a security breach scenario. The drone is seen launching automatically and heading to the designated area after a security alert was generated. As it arrives on site, it uses computer vision technology to analyze the image and identify and follow the intruder until a security team arrives. There are hurdles to overcome. Some have raised privacy concerns, and the use of commercial drones isn't yet fully regulated. But developers say the future of keeping sensitive locations safe is the eye in the sky.
And this Fox News alert, a federal judge ordering the FBI to unseal the search warrant that led the agency to reopen its case into Hillary Clinton's emails just days before the election. That is expected to happen in just about 2 hours from now. Kristen Fisher has more. She's live for us from Washington. So, Kristen, why is the search warrant being unsealed now at this point?
Because the federal judge overseeing the case says that the public has a right to see it. He's placing public interest over privacy concerns. But the judge did warn that portions of this search warrant are going to be blacked out or redacted to protect the identity of the investigating agents. Now, this is a big deal because we're about to get our first glimpse at the documents that the FBI used to reopen its investigation into Clinton's emails just 11 days before the election.
Justice may finally be coming to Flint, Michigan. After months of extended worldwide coverage, charges have been filed against 4 former officials involved in the Flint water crisis. 2 former city officials and 2 former state emergency officials face serious felony charges after a surge of lead poisoning in children was discovered. This is Michigan Attorney General Bill Schutt.
The tragedy that we know as the Flint water crisis did not occur by accident. No. Flint was a casualty of arrogance, disdain, and a failure of management. We will proceed. We will proceed to deliver justice and hold those accountable who broke the law. Period.
President Obama just took millions of acres of federal waters off the table for oil and gas companies. Obama used a little-known provision in the 1953 Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act to ban new leases for offshore drilling in federally owned parts of the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. The administration is characterizing this as a permanent ban, but President-elect Donald Trump may have something to say about that.
America is sitting on a treasure trove of untapped energy.
President-elect Donald Trump has promised to deliver more access to U.S. waters to drill for oil and gas.
I'm going to lift the restrictions on American energy and allow this wealth to pour into our communities.
But President Obama is trying to secure his environmental legacy by relying on a decades-old law to ban offshore drilling off the coast of the U.S.
Our plan will end the EPA.
Obama's move puts a wrinkle in Trump's overall plan for a massive rollback of environmental regulations. The question remains, how will Trump execute this rollback strategy?
My name is Myron Ebell.
Myron Ebell, a climate change denier, is the man on Trump's transition team that's tasked with staffing the new EPA. He also heads a libertarian think tank called the Competitive Enterprise Institute, or CEI. A report by his organization might be the blueprint for the new administration to undermine key environmental regulations, like defunding oversight of carbon emissions from power plants, stripping the EPA of its power to impact climate policy by changing language in the Clean Air Act. The current head of the EPA, Gina McCarthy, said in an interview with the Financial Times Monday, the policies she's helped create cannot be undone without scientific proof, saying, quote, "They have to figure out why the climate science isn't overwhelming and go back all the way to the Supreme Court to explain why decisions we've already made are no longer correct."
Kids make the biggest messes.
The man who makes the mess disappear at Arvada High says he's got the best job in the world. It's not the job itself, but who he gets to work with.
Well, I've been here 14 years and I love these kids and they love me. So I ask them how they're doing and cheer them up, or if they got their head down, I make them pick their head up.
They call him Wild Bill, the janitor, unlike most.
He goes to all the games. I mean, all of them. I've never seen him miss one game.
Even like in public, he would wave to me and say hi and like ask me how my day was going. And I was like, wow.
Everyone wants to support Bill because they know how much he would do for you.
2 weeks ago, Bill's car, his only way to work, was stolen in the middle of the night.
I dropped to my knees and cried. It's my pride and joy.
The students know how much Bill loved his car. Ian Fonseca started a fundraiser for it on Wednesday.
Like, he's done so much for us, so we decided to give back to him.
Call it a testament to his character. Students raised more than $4,000 for the janitor in just 2 days.
It means a lot to me. It means a lot of love and care.
There's something special that you see in Bill, that you'll do whatever it takes to help him as much as he helps you.
A special bond he wouldn't trade for any other job in the world.
These are my children here. This is my home. And this is where I retire someday.